How's it going, everyone? Happy Wednesday. Welcome to Best Ball with Bindles. Tonight we have on one of our biggest guests yet, Liam Murphy, winner of BBM2. We're going to vamp a little bit about rookies, about free agents, whatever else is on our mind, and then we will hit a big board. So jump in if you want to draft with us, and let's get going. Liam, how's it going, sir? How's your night going?
Thanks for having me on, Bindles. Sick intro. Excited to vamp with you and rip this draft.
Yeah, man. It's I'm a big I during work I'll just like throw on some vaporwave music, and so that was the inspiration for that. I feel like it sets the vibe for the stream, gets the good vibes going. So I'm glad you liked it.
I got to get there myself. I'm still using the StreamYard 30-second plugin that I see on like random podcasts I've listened to as well.
Yeah, I just had a moment of like inspiration. I was just bored, and I was like, okay, what can I do for an intro? I was like I see people pay for intros and stuff, so I was like, I think I can just make this in Canva. So
you made that? Wow.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. I was surprised. I was like, I have no background in graphic design or anything editing at all, but I was just like, I'm gonna spend a couple hours and figure it out. So yeah. So you said you've done not too many big boards yet, so you're trying to catch up and fill it. But what in terms of position by position, I kind of wanted to go and like the feel of the draft and how you're approaching position by position. So starting off with quarterback, the elite quarterback prices aren't as crazy as they were last year. Josh Allen still goes at the 2-3 turn, but Hurts, Lamar, Mahomes are all going like whatever significantly later. And then we have kind of a big cluster in like the 9th, 10th, 11th range of kind of like the more pocket passers. And then we have some of the guys that people are down on, like a Deshaun Watson, a Levis, a Bryce Young, a Derek Carr, kind of the quote lower upside guys. So how have you been playing that so far? And any like juicy nuggets you have for us on your quarterback strategy so far?
Yeah, I mean, historically, I've always been an elite quarterback lover, especially for a site like Underdog, where, I mean, it's just like a mathematical fact that quarterback is worth more points on a half-point PPR site. However, the market has not reflected that in Underdog because it's like a sharper user base where even though quarterbacks do more for your points, they're cheaper. And DK, where it's a PPR site, they'll be more expensive and they don't do as much because, a wide receiver gets 10 catches and that is worth more, more valuable than a quarterback getting 30 points or whatever. But I will say this year, it's hard because guys I still view as elite fantasy options, such as like a Kyler Murray, a Justin Herbert, slightly less elite, even like the Trevor Lawrences, makes it really hard to not like for the bulk of my volume. I don't know if I want to be getting the elites in my portfolio. At the same time, we know this. If a Josh or Lamar drops 40 points, you might need them to win the contest. Now, it's nice to look back at last year. It's a 1-year sample on 1 week, but Lamar dropped 40 or whatever against the Dolphins, fantasy points. However, I don't think he was on many winning teams overall, right? Where it's like, again, this is like rather meaningless. And it's because Lamar was not more important than CeeDee Lamb was, getting those points at wide receiver. So, personally, I think there's like quarterbacks to like upside wise all throughout the draft. Like you can convince yourself on Deshaun Watson returning to like top 5 quarterbacks in fantasy, right? Like that could happen. Will Levis could hit. JJ McCarthy's super cheap. Jaden Daniels is kind of just like the Anthony Richardson bet, but different, right? It seems like at least
A little bit cheaper right now. I feel like that once the NFL draft hits and everything, once we get to the summer, I feel like he's going to get steamed up pretty far, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting to view like the market's just like, sure, Richardson's a 5th round pick. I talked about this on stream, but Daniels, we're going to leave him in the 10th. So, and like even in the big board, like, you know, Richardson, I feel like was like a 7th, an 8th. He opened really high. He dropped back down. But it's kind of interesting that like, even though Richardson got hurt after 3 games, they're like, yes, he goes right after CJ Stroud or right ahead of them. So
they saw just the teensiest bit of what he could be. And they're just like, okay, I'm all in.
Yeah. And it's like what were people not believing that he was that, or like or was it like I thought that they would punish him for not lasting a full season, but no, they're like, no, we know what he can be. We're gonna take him here, and maybe a site other than Underdog would treat him differently. But I mean, it's pretty long winded. But like, if you had to go, if you're only doing a couple drafts, I would definitely say that round 10-ish spot, especially if you can stack them. So the Justin Herberts, Tua, Kyler, like these are quarterbacks I really like with their stack part. Trevor, you know, like Trevor was like a 6th round pick last year, probably should not have been. But like him versus like a Matt Stafford, Tom Brady bet of the past, at least Trevor's going to reach over the goal line and give you a couple rushing touchdowns,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah, and I think that whole offense was really weird. Like I kind of feel like they hit some just weird variants. Like Kirk was out for a little bit, like and just whatever. There's so many touchdowns where I feel like they could have had just whatever. Maybe next year it goes back and the variance swings their way a little bit. I can see that. But yeah, I feel like Kyler is one of my favorite picks. Like I struggle to not take Kyler every draft because I'm just like, what is the difference between like CJ Stroud going at pick like what is it, like 55? And I understand like that's probably because of stacking purposes and like there is upside just from he looked amazing as a rookie, but he is still a pocket passer versus Kyler, who we know he can give you those big weeks. And if he gets a Marvin Harrison or a Neighbors or someone like that to pair with Trey McBride, I think it could be very, very exciting, especially at that cost. So he's one of my favorites. And then, yeah, I haven't taken a lot of Mahomes, Lamar. Lamar is a little bit more palatable because if you can pair him with Mark Andrews going in like the 5th, I think that might also be a reason why we didn't see Lamar as much like on some of the finals teams is because he was paired with Andrews a lot. So then
and Tua, and Tyreek.
Yeah, and Tyreek as well. That's a good point. Yeah, because I know like some of my best teams were Miami and Baltimore stacks, and then they just got absolutely dusted once I got to week 14, 15, 16. So, and then I really like Watson at like pick 150. I just feel like I know as a human being, he's a shit guy, but like he wasn't bad for fantasy. Like he was averaging like 20 punts a game almost. And has a lot more upside than like a Stafford or something like that at that cost. So,
yeah, I mean, I took him when you have Brown's pieces, like he feels like a really solid guy to tack on.
Yeah, and then Levis, I think, is like the perfect like either QB2 if you do take one of the like more elite guys or QB3. Because I just think I don't think Will Levis is going to be good. Like I don't want to bet on him actually being good if like in like season long or something like that. But for best ball, like I think they're going to pass more with Callahan. They already have more weapons, right? And maybe week by week it won't be like consistent, but we've already seen he had a few crazy blow up games, and I think if the pace of the offense is faster and he just has more weapons, they have a pick at what is it 7? So they're probably going to take tackle, but you never know. Like maybe they take a Bowers, maybe they take a receiver. I don't think they will.
We want them to go tackle, maybe, right? Like,
yeah, probably.
And no, Levis is I like him. I still feel like there's some untapped rushing ability. Seems pretty safe job security wise, unless he
For
like
this
totally
year.
bombs,
Yeah.
you know? So no, he's like as like quarterback 28, 29, whatever he is, he's a really great pick in my opinion.
So yeah, and then you can. I mean, now there's some a little bit more options with Ridley there. D Hop are both like not. Uh, is D Hop still going behind Ridley? I feel like that doesn't. I feel like I would have them flipped personally, but if 80, I think ADP still has Ridley ahead.
You're not buying the Ridley's Jamar Chase report?
I mean, I don't think Ridley. I think people just had such high expectations of Ridley, like coming off of like what he used to be. He was actually pretty good, and he did have some weird, like I said, like was same with T Law, like some weird drop touchdowns, a couple big plays where like people the perception might be a little bit different. He was fine, like right. And if I don't know. I still think D Hop didn't slow down at all, peripherals wise. He could, right? He's 30, he's gonna be 32, so it could happen. But I mean, Ridley's not young. He's gonna be 30. So I just think D Hop is still more talented. So
Yeah, he's a good bet to me, and he's like at the tail end of like a tier for me. Now he's not competing with just Chiga Conquo for targets. He is going to be
true.
competing with Calvin Ridley, but um, I don't know. I like him as a Levis piece. I've drafted him quite a bit.
Yeah, I just think also like, yeah, maybe his target share probably won't be like it was pretty crazy. It was like almost 30% target share or something. It won't be that, but also there'll be more volume to sustain the offense as a whole. So I feel like that makes me feel a little bit better about the Titans. So then moving on to running back. So obviously we have CMC 101, and then Bijan and Brees are both creeping up into that middle of the first round. Bijan's getting pushed up. I've seen people take him like very early, like over Justin Jefferson, like 103, as early as 103 sometimes. Not it doesn't usually happen. And then we have kind of the younger like Kyron and Jameer Gibbs and HN in the second round. And then we have a weird mix of kind of older guys that are projected for volume, kind of the Derrick Henrys, the Josh Jacobs that are moving up. And then I think my favorite range right now is like the 8 to 10 range. There's just so many good options in that area. If you do want to go zero RB or as your second with an anchor. But how have you been playing that so far? And where are there any hidden gems that you have been hammering as much as possible?
I think like a zero RB in theory can work out well at this time of year where, these scratch off tickets you're taking in the late rounds, those guys could be Kyron Williams or Pacheco or James Cook, whatever, right? However, it is hard because you're when you like punt off running back, you are just drafting and you draft rookies. You are taking guys who, I mean, we legit don't know if they're even going to be drafted, what round, what team. So it adds a lot of like ability for your team to not be so great. So I like to get usually one running back by that James Cookish range. I really like James Cook, which is around that. Like guys who go around James Cook is Rashad White, Isaiah Pacheco, Derrick Henry's like I think the guy ahead of them. And like I really like that range. I don't really view that range that much differently than the Saquon range. Whereas like I mean like Saquon could be a workhorse, but it's the Eagles offense. And then and then you got the running backs of yesteryear that like Aaron Jones, Joe Mixon, Kamara range, where it's like later in the draft, you got Eckler. It really feels like some of these guys are going to smash. I quite like taking the rookie RB1, whether that's Brooks or Benson. And so I've been playing running back a lot of different ways. Some drafts I'll start running back heavy. Some drafts I'll punt it off and really try to just take a bunch of them. But yeah, I've been doing a couple of different ways there.
Yeah, I like it's weird. It's weird because usually with rookies, we have kind of some guys like obviously Bijan was going first round last year. We usually have some guys that are getting pushed up. So I still think like those prices are very, very, very palatable for those guys because once we do get some more clarity, it's worth it to take those shots in that range, especially those two you mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, like someone's going to be the Cowboys running back, probably.
Yeah, Steph keeps saying Jonathan Brooks to the Cowboys because their team doctor did the ACL surgery, which that seems like it's gonna happen, right? Like I
I
feel
mean,
like
there's been a lot of smoke where there's fire, or fire where there's smoke there, for that type of thing.
and then yeah, I mean I am perfectly fine obviously taking CMC, Bijan, Brees. I don't know. I think Gibbs's price is like it scares me a little bit. Like I understand it. I think obviously like second year running back who kind of showed some crazy flashes. I do get it, but I don't know. I don't find myself taking as much Gibbs even as a Lions fan. Don't not as into Gibbs at that price over some of the wide receivers in that range. Kyron is like the ultimate like just if he survives the draft and if he does get the role he did last year, like he should probably be going way higher than he is. But it's just like, what do we know at this point? Like we're so far out. And then Achan, I've been hammering him in that second round. I just feel like not that many guys can give you that upside that he gives you in that range. If you pair him with a wide receiver in that first round, I feel very good about that. And then something I was talking about with Sacrilegious is like his Sortino ratio, where like if you pair like an Achan who's kind of like a little bit more of the boom bust type, where like he does have some games where he doesn't get as many touches and he kind of busts. Pair him with like a Demont or like some of those like Najee 10th round type guys where they kind of give you more consistent weeks. And that kind of gives you the best of both worlds where you're covering yourself off on the floor side, but also still giving yourself that upside. So I've been doing that a lot as well.
Yeah, I view Achan and Gibbs pretty similarly, where they're just massive spike week players. So like I'm not like being like, okay, yeah, Achan scored 50 against the Broncos, so he's a go, and Gibbs didn't, so he's a no.
Yeah.
I'm like I think if I had to choose one, I think Gibbs is the safer bet, right? He's just higher draft capital. Year two, I think could just bring big things from him. Kyron, like I was all over Kyron last year. It is a little sticker shock, but hard to argue with the results, like I think he's very likely to survive the draft too, right? Like McVay loves this guy for a reason. He can pass block, he can run. Um, they probably view like O-line as like a bigger need. They've made some good defensive moves too. They probably
Yeah,
view like replacing Aaron Donald as a bigger need. So I don't know. There's a lot of different ways you can hunt it. I don't always go the like. I sometimes do that. Like, let's take a spike week guy and a floor guy, or like let's take a rookie and Adam Thielen. But also, it's just like if you take 5 running backs who you think have massive ceilings, you only need 2 to hit. You don't need that floor, quote unquote.
No, absolutely. I don't think there's one right way to play it. It's interesting talking to different people about like how they conceptualize it, right? Because it's like there's some people that are more kind of like projection type people where like that they lean towards that kind of stuff. And then there's more people that are more like just whatever. I don't know if it's vibe. I don't know what the right way to say it, vibes based or just like kind of feel based. And I think whatever, both are viable options. So it's interesting to kind of see people with different perspectives and just bounce ideas off of them. So that's why I'm trying to bring on a different, just a bunch of guests with different opinions because it kind of gets the wheels turning in your head of like, okay, how do I want to play this?
Yeah, I mean, like, and I feel like people like one thing I remember being preached a lot last year was like safety in the late rounds. Like, can't risk a zero, guys. What are you gonna do when you draft Evan Hull? That's a zero. I have a feeling that crowd is gonna change their tune, or maybe they haven't self-reflected and they should, because who was a risky zero? Kyron Williams. Like a zero doesn't fucking matter. Just swing for the fences, and if you hit it, you can actually win the contest. Like you needed Kyron to win last year, point blank period. Not only playoffs, regular season, everything. So you could have drafted this great roster. You could have took Mr. Safe Devontae Parker, who I don't know, scored 5 points, and you just lost in like a spectacular flame. So you can risk a zero is what I'm here to tell you.
Yeah, I mean, after around like what, like 14, 15, like
Even 10, like even like around 10, like it starts to get dicey as far as like guarantees.
yeah. Yeah, I need your take on the Bills as a whole. Obviously, Diggs had a weird second half of the year. I am kind of the mindset that I just think it was weird variance and like switching coordinators mid-season.
I think he hurt his oblique against the Jaguars in London.
Is that so? Okay, yeah. So give me the Diggs take and give me just overall Bills offense
Yeah,
take
I
because
think
from the
you
Bills
you
inside.
can throw out the drama. Like if anyone's listening to ESPN and they're like, "Oh, Diggs isn't happy," throw that part away, right? That's just like an ESPN talking head nonsense for us for fantasy football. Um, that's just like making the wheel turn type talk. The the rumor slash confirmation is Diggs significantly hurt his oblique against the Jaguars and then played through it. So it's like if Diggs sat out the season after he hurt his oblique and then he was declared fully healthy, what round pick would he be? I don't know. Maybe pretty similar, but like it would be an optimistic click.
Probably a little
Whereas
bit higher, honestly. Yeah.
maybe higher, maybe he would be like in that Nico Collins range. So I think Diggs is a pretty chalky answer for who's going to be the number one target earner on the Bills and fantasy wideout. Um, and then you got honestly the Bills are hard to project even for me because you got Curtis Samuel, who I like a lot. You got Kincaid, who I like a lot. I think they're very likely to add a wideout round 1 or 2. Um,
Yeah.
Khalil Shakir is not going to just like go away, right? Like he was too good. And then so like maybe it's going to be this thing where it's like the rookie is an outside guy and Shakir is just like spelling everybody and can play slot and outside. Um, and then you have Joe Brady who like really ran this like run heavy offense with the Bills and what made James Cook so valuable down the stretch. So we don't really know what the Joe Brady offense is going to look like per se, but we have an idea. And it really makes me like James Cook and the cheaper options, but I do like Diggs as well. And so I think you just take all pieces of the Bills and like figure it out and see what happens in the draft. Because if no rookie lands there, then wheels are a go on Khalil Shakir. If someone does, which I think they will, um, I don't know. He needs to cool off in price, but one injury and he's in the mix.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like I think they're pretty likely to draft. So I mean, like there's just so many receivers, right? Like even if it's not end of the first round there, second round, there's just whatever 15 plus receivers that are projected in the first right? 2 to 3-ish rounds. I think I really like the Curtis Samuel move for them because I feel like he can play outside, he can play inside. It kind of gives them flexibility to go like either way in the draft, right? Like whether it's an outside guy or an inside guy. I still think Diggs is going to be the number one, but I think otherwise you still want, like you said, you still want pieces just because they're just going to ping pong weeks, right? Like maybe Kincaid goes on a stretch. Maybe Samuel goes on a stretch. Maybe the rookie goes on a stretch. So just want pieces of the whole team, obviously, because it's weird though, because so like Bills are not a good example, but it's like I feel like every year, last year was the Chargers. Every year we have these offenses where like we think they're good offenses and they end up either just through injury or like new coordinators or whatever kind of falling apart. So like I'm trying to just think through some of like the teams that we are like boosting up Like I remember last year it was like the Jaguars who we were like pushing up all the pieces because of after that playoff game. It's like I don't really have a question for you. But I'm just like, that's something I'm trying to think about, like, as we get closer to the season of like, who are the real good offenses and who are the good offenses that we're just kind of wish casting. And then on the other end of the spectrum, with kind of like some bad offenses that are being priced down. I don't know, like, I'm just thinking, for example, like the Panthers or like the Giants or some of these teams where all their pieces are very depressed in value. Where can we kind of take advantage, right? Like every year there's a couple teams, like whether it's like last year it was Houston, maybe it's the Titans, right? Like all their Levis goes late and their pieces aren't super expensive. So yeah, how do you like identify teams that you're targeting, whatever, either on the high end or the low end? Do you like have any comments there?
Almost always top down. So who's your quarterback? What do I think about the quarterback? Um, you know, the skill players matter as well, but a big part of it is quarterback related, right? Like, I mean, Trevor, what happened? I mean, he got pretty unlucky to like probably have like 6 to 8 touchdowns wiped out by like 1 inch, most of them to Calvin Ridley. Um, Secondly, their O line was like way worse than anyone realized. So what are you going to do there? At the same time, like the Texans had a terrible O line, but I was like all over Stroud because he was the 102, in the real life draft. So I was like, hey, why is this guy,
There's upside here, yeah.
yeah, he went second overall in the real football draft. I'm gonna take this guy in the 18th round. Um, you know, and so yeah, it's usually top down for me personally.
Okay, so then moving on to receiver, where like so you said you're taking a decent amount of like the James Cook, Pacheco range. Where like how many receivers are you trying to get before like round whatever, like 7, 8, kind of like where they dry up that like Christian Watson is like kind of the last guy of like that range before you kind of get to like rookies and Jacoby Meyer, Sutton types. So how are you playing receiver? So
I mean, I think the safe answers usually want like at least four by then. However, like more than ever in the past, are we going to see teams built like that? So this does add in the little bit of like, you may as well build to be unique. So I will push it on some teams, go running back heavy, hit double tight end, hit elite quarterback, something like that, and then try to just go volume wide receiver just to get different. And I think there's always going to be value in an ever changing market where, like the year Justin won, and then he touted hyper fragile, and every like 80% of the field built hyper fragile. It was really valuable not to build hyper fragile that year. It will probably be pretty valuable not to build super wide out heavy if you can get the right pieces.
yeah, I find myself like I don't know if this is just I'm a prisoner of the this time of year with all the rookies, but I find myself like feeling like I don't need to go super wide receiver heavy. Like I still probably want 3 to 4, like through like 7 or 8 rounds. But it's like if I have 3 really like in the first few rounds, and then I feel like I can get some values on some other positions and just load up with like 4 or 5 rookies later, I feel pretty comfortable with that. It's like I think there's a lot of, like we said, like 15-ish guys projected for the first couple rounds. So it's like even if you miss on even if you miss on a few, if you just attack it with volume through those rookies and upside guys later on, that feels really nice.
Yeah, I mean the wideouts at the top feel safe, but there are players to like throughout the draft, wide receiver included. Um, and so I think we're jumping in this draft here. We need 10 more if you want to draft with Bindles and I. Gonna draft on my account, so I will be in charge of Venmoing Bindles $100,000 when we win this. I don't know if Venmo just does it like that.
Does 100K.
Yeah, 7 more. I'm gonna run and take 5 more. I'm gonna run and take a piss before this draft starts, though.
Sounds good. So let's check out the chat while Liam is gone for a second. We got Best Ball Guy. Best Ball Guy, message me on I don't know if you have Discord or Twitter. Find me on Twitter and let's do a stream on your channel. We got the League FFB. He's been putting out some really good Dynasty content, so go check out his channel. We got the boy Vaporware. We got Who's Your Devo. We got Caleb, another very good Dynasty creator, so go check out him. Let's see what else we got here. Yeah, Daniel Bellinger season. Yeah, I mean, I actually kind of like Daniel Bellinger. I don't know where his ADP is at right now, but I think it's. I mean, I don't want to be betting on Waller. I definitely think he's a solid tight end 3 in a 3 tight end build. All in on the Panthers. Yeah, I mean, it just seems like everyone's so cheap. And
Yeah, bro, you gotta whisper that. All in on the Panthers. that's not a beat your chest type move.
I mean, I just think the price is so low. Like if I'm just like drafting a couple rookies and Deontay and pairing him with Bryce Young, kind of like as just your emergency stack at the end. I don't know, man. It's like that. You can't really go wrong, right? Like if they don't do anything, they don't do anything. It's not going to cost you much. So.
Yeah, I mean, I find Adam Thielen as like a really interesting name because he's still like just as cheap as he ever was. And I mean, okay, so Deontay Johnson's going to get some targets, but Thielen's got to as well, right?
I mean, yeah, because they're probably going to draft at least one guy, but I mean, like rookies are more like late season, right? Like bets, anyways. So I don't think you're really expecting a rookie to come in and dominate targets. So yeah, I mean, hey, at like we said, at his cost, it's so low that I don't hate it. Okay, so we're at pick 7 here. So I'm pretty good with. I mean, if Jamar or Jefferson fall to us, I would scoop them up, but I don't really have a preference between.
Let's go wide out here.
Hopefully, okay.
So
yeah,
Jamar or Jefferson goes.
Go Amon-Ra.
Yeah, I don't think I've drafted an Amon-Ra team.
Okay, yeah.
So let's get a so Breece Hall goes. So we might as well take Jefferson.
Yeah, I was gonna say we got to go Jefferson. I was queuing up my welcome to Detroit City noise for Amon-Ra, but I can't.
I didn't know you had that soundbite. I would have drafted the Sun God.
No. I'm sorry. I can't in good conscience have you drafting Amon-Ra over Jefferson. I'm sorry. That's.
I mean, it's not crazy, right? Like the market is rightfully a little worried about Jefferson with the QB questions. At the same time, like, you know, those of us who have played DFS, I think it's just like nice to remember that like Jefferson was like a 10K player, you know, at times, just like lock it in for 20 to 30 points. And a very talented wideout.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a knock on Amon-Ra. It's more just like I think there's just the uncertainty with the quarterback situation with Darnold signing there. But I mean, all signs are pointing that they're going to draft someone. So even if we get, I mean, Justin Jefferson was producing with Nick Mullins. So I think the scheme is pretty solid there. So I know Sam Darnold isn't some world beater, but I think if Nick Mullins can produce in that offense with Jefferson, then I'm not too worried. So
yeah, and TJ Hawkinson is like not a lock to play by I don't know when.
Like,
and Jordan Addison's not exactly.
Like, I don't even know.
Yeah, and Addison's not exactly target dominant. So
that's a very good point. Yeah, I mean, and who knows? I think like the Vikings are probably not going to be amazing, especially if it's a rookie and Darnold, right? Like they're probably in their division is pretty solid. So I mean, maybe Hawkinson they play it slow and just kind of play it for the year after, right? I think they signed him to a pretty big contract. So yeah, that's a good point on Jefferson too, that he won't have to deal with Hawkinson's guys. Hawkinson was getting a shit ton of targets. Okay, so who are you thinking here?
I mean, I think Marvin's very fun, right? The other names, I was kind of like, I just kind of randomize it.
Yeah,
I don't know how you're feeling.
It's just a big glob for me, honestly. I like Adams in London, and I'm fine taking the shot on Harrison. Like, I don't love the ADP, but it's like I don't want to miss out on having some
I mean, I
Harrison.
think he's incredibly likely to be a Cardinal or a Charger. And if he is on either of those teams, he is almost locked in for like 1,400 yards plus, because on the Chargers, it's like, okay, who's he competing with targets for? Like literally who?
Nobody.
Josh Palmer.
QJ.
And on the Cardinals, it's the same thing. You know, it's like it's Trey McBride in him. So like if he is on one of those two teams, which again seems very likely, you know, he's dominant in it. Okay, worst case, he's a Patriot. Right? Worst case, the Patriots are like, we'll get quarterback next year, whatever. Even in that scenario, he could go for 1,400 because he's competing with targets with like Demario Douglas, you know?
Yeah, I mean, and I mean, I know if it's Jacoby Brissett, like I don't think Jacoby Brissett is some like whatever. He's not a
Amari
great
Cooper.
I was gonna say he supported Amari Cooper fine, right? And I
Yeah.
think Marvin Harrison is whatever. Like he has much more upside than Amari Cooper as a prospect. Well, I shouldn't say that as a prospect. Amari Cooper was a very good prospect, but oh yeah, someone Hoosier Devo, a regular in the chat, saying, "Did you see Neighbors absolutely murder ball his pro day?" Yeah, that was
I did.
Killed it.
I don't, you know, like I put a tweet out like an hour ago that was like, I mean, the way the news cycle is in the NFL, like 2 weeks ago was like, you know, I'd have people on. They're like, oh no, there's only like 3 quarterbacks that are even draftable for the rookies, you know. And now it's like Jaden Daniels takes a sack every play. He's a bust. JJ McCarthy's going number 2 overall to the Commanders, and Bo Nix is sneaking in there, or Michael Penix. And also, it was like, yeah, Marvin Harrison Jr. is like by far and away the number 1. And now people are like, actually, Malik Neighbors is going to leave him, and actually Rome Odunze is going to do that too because he stayed at the combine late. I mean, Neighbors is an athletic freak. He is like let's take him. Let's go double rookie.
Double rookie? Yeah.
Yeah, why not? Because I mean, okay, so the bad with Neighbors is if he's a giant, right? Like, quote unquote, that's the bad. And even if he is a giant, I mean, Darren Waller could retire, and then like they could feed this guy unreal volume. So, you know, taking the 2 rookies in one of the top wideout classes, like I don't know, it could feel silly with like the Mike Evans, the Devontae Adams, the Steph Diggs, the guys of yesteryear in here, but down the stretch, and even not down the stretch, like these guys are going to need to produce right away. They feel like a lock to go 106 or higher.
Yeah, absolutely. Both of these guys. And I mean, as prospects, like these guys are just absolutely insane. Like they're top tier, like right up there with Chase in the last like 5-ish years. So I mean,
a lot of people are saying Neighbors is a Chase-ish clone.
Well, I mean, I saw a tweet and his measurables and everything at his pro day because he didn't measure in at the combine or run. It's pretty similar. Like I think it's like around 6 foot, like 199, and Chase was about 6 foot, like 200, right? Like almost exactly. I think and kind of they do play somewhat similarly in terms of they can kind of do everything and they have the yak ability as well, which Neighbors excels at. So, I mean, I think the Harrison one.
I really don't like this. Sorry to interrupt, but I hate this start from the
12. No, I don't know. Interrupt anytime. Yeah.
The double running back and then Lamar and Derrick Henry on the same team. is just like the most floor behind the 8 ball start you can have, right? Like it's getting unique, right? He's the only one doing this, but I really don't like the Henry with Lamar pairing at this expense.
I mean, that's too much testosterone for me. I'm sorry. Like,
Yeah, we're over here with our soy boys. That's the thing. Bro's gotta pump the brakes over here.
So I'm trying to see who else. I think Sacrilegious is in the draft with us. We got Hoosier Devo, who's a regular. We have Choco Taco, who I recognize. So we might have to utilize the private chat later on.
Who are you liking here?
Ooh, this is an interesting range.
I like James. I like McBride. I think I have both of those guys rated higher than everyone else on the board.
I mean, I would probably go McBride, and then maybe we can build out a little a Kyler stack later on with either Neighbors or Harrison.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to release my rankings once I launch my site, but for me, the gap between Laporta, McBride, and co is not what it is, right? Like I've seen Laporta go at the 2-3 turn, and I got like McBride at like the 4-5 turn. There is no reason why that gap should exist at all, right? Like I like Laporta, but he's facing a target dominant Amon-Ra, a significant target in Gibbs, J-Mo's not a target dominant guy, but he ends drives, which is not great for Laporta if he's catching like touchdowns. And then I feel like they're pretty likely with Reynolds out of there, signing with the Broncos to add a wideout at the top of the draft too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably whatever. My co-host on my weekly show is El Coach. He finished like 15th, or I forget the exact spot, 15th in BBM last year. And he was like probably the number one Laporta stan of all time. And I'm a Lions fan as well. He bought me the helmet in the background there.
I had a lot of Laporta last year, but he was free,
Yeah. So yeah, it's not like I think I'm mirroring what you're saying as well. Like it's not so much a knock on Laporta, but it's more just like these guys should be closer together. Like there shouldn't be such a big difference between Laporta, McBride, Kelsey, Andrews. Like it's all just kind of like they should all move closer together. Like Laporta should move back, and they should all be a little bit closer together, in my opinion.
I can even make the case for all of them. When I was like thinking through rankings before I kind of like put pen to pencil, I was kind of thinking they would just be like 2-3 turn guys, and it's like, okay, there is the position scarcity argument for wideout, but from like a raw scoring perspective, it's not crazy that like McBride will average as many points per game as like a Waddle,
Yeah.
or
No,
like,
I can definitely see it.
or Devonta Smith, obviously Diggs, Mike, Adams, we've seen have huge years in the past, but we could see McBride, Laporta, Kelsey at that like 16 point per game type range, PPR. So, a little bit less, half point.
Yeah, no. I think it's so interesting because I feel like well, let's pick someone first. So we went tight end before. So do you want to keep Pisson, or do you want to draft Pacheco a little bit after ADP? How are you been playing?
I'm okay with one of these two running backs. I don't know how or I'm also ready to hit a tight end here. If you want to like just take a Pitts, Kincaid, or Andrews.
Let's go Pacheco. I feel like take a little detour.
Pacheco, I view as like a cheaper Kyron, where I don't think he's a lock to make it out of the draft, right? Like obviously very impressive player, very solid. I do like White and Cook quite a bit better than this ranking has it. And like, yes, I think he's a bit safer of a bet to get volume than like a Ken Walker, but I kind of view Walker's ceiling in an individual game a bit higher, just because we know Ken Walker can go on like 80-yard touchdown runs, and like, yeah, the offense is worse, but he can do that 2 to 3 times a game in like a pure ceiling game. Whereas like Pacheco's ceiling is him getting a lot of check downs, and also just grabbing a bunch of touchdowns. And
A couple
then
goal line carries.
yeah. And then you have the Chiefs, who added Hollywood, so you have a better deep threat now. Yeah, you have Rashee Rice, and it's pretty likely they add some wideouts in the draft too. So you got Kelsey still there. You got these other wide receivers there. You're no longer competing with MVS for touches. So it has been a little bit iffy with Pacheco at this point in time. But, if he's that role, he's solid.
Yeah, I mean, this is I think it's a fine price. Like, pick 55. Like, there's still some upside at that cost, right? Like, he still could, like, they could not bring really anybody else in, and he could just, like you said. I mean, I get the Walker point. It's just interesting because I forget who it was. I think it was Jacob and someone were arguing about like Pacheco versus Walker, and it's like, I think they have like pretty much the same amount of like whatever it is, like 25-point games or something. So it's like, even though Walker kind of like seems like he's like the more like having bigger spike weeks, I actually think they're closer than it like seems on like from watching.
Well, on the sample that we have, but like, I would go to my grave convinced that in a pure ceiling, so like,
Sure.
who's going to drop 40? I will take Ken Walker.
I'll take Walker. Yeah, I'll take Walker.
Just because it could be there, but like, yeah, I mean, like, in the sample we have, sure, we have a couple alpha running back starts, by the way.
We have two,
which is rare. Like, it's rare to get multiple people going there. He goes Pitts, really makes me want to go Kincaid and just double elite. I double elite a tight end all my drafts today. I feel like we got to continue unless you're loving someone else.
No, I mean, I don't love Addison. We were kind of talking about him. We have Jefferson, so we could, but we don't know who to really stack it with. So, you know what? We're having the Kincaid stand on. We might as well draft Kincaid. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, you love throwing the Kincaid sticker in the YouTube member chat, so I feel
I do.
It feels right. And I mean, a Kincaid versus Kittle is an interesting discussion, right? Because like, in a pure 1 week ceiling, Kittle has undoubtedly showed a higher ceiling than Kincaid has, right? Like, we've seen it year after year with Kittle just have like legit 30-point games. Kincaid was more of like 10 catches, 95 yards, 10 catches, 85 yards type vibe, And
Yeah,
so
just volume the hell out of it. Yeah.
Just a volume guy, you get a touchdown to 17 points. So obviously, I mean, if that's what it is, that's still very valuable, right? Like, that is, 10 catches, 85 yards. That is whatever. That's like, 15 points or so. You get a touchdown, that's 20 points. It's a projection that Kincaid becomes more of like the 1B to Diggs or the 2. And like, I don't know if there is a clear 1B in Buffalo again, as we talked about. It is like there's like 3 dudes you could convince me are the 1B plus the maybe rookie. So I don't know. At the end of the day, tight end is really gross at the end of draft. So it feels good stopping at 2 and then
just be done. Yeah.
Just getting the darts at running back, wide out, and quarterback.
I agree. It's I think yesterday on stream I did a draft and I ended up with, I think it was like, oh God, who the fuck was it? It was like Mayer and then the 2 other gross guys in like the 18th, 19th round. And it's just like, doesn't feel great.
No, I mean, like, Mayer feels good, but past that range, it's like, maybe Noah Fant's got a little bit left. Maybe that Mike Gesicki signing is something.
You're talking to the number 1 Noah Fant stand here. So, I mean, I'll keep up for Noah Fant, but outside
I don't know if you can have that title from me where I won $1 million off.
That's
of
true.
Okay,
you're
so
right.
I might have you on the Noah Fant stand. I'm not quite drafting that way, but Noah Fant was my guy that year.
I mean, that's
And he,
definitely
by the way,
that's
Noah
definitely a
Fant
better
and Mike
stake for the
Gesicki that
claim.
year were like 10th and 11th round picks.
Yeah. Okay, so we're about to be up again. We have Jefferson, MHJ, Neighbors, Pacheco, and then the bully tight end McBride and Kincaid. So looks like we have a little bit
Wanted
of a
Hopkins
falling.
there.
I'm sorry.
I said I wanted Hopkins there. He goes.
Yeah, I wanted Hopkins too.
I like these
So
three guys.
what other receivers are available
We
here?
could just grab Kyler.
I feel like I'd rather just grab Kyler because since we have got two guys that are probably going to be there, and then we have one running back so far, and I feel like there's a lot of guys, a lot of running backs I like in this range. Otherwise, receiver wise, I looks like AD Mitchell already went. Deontay already went, so I mean, maybe we could maybe get some rookies. But yeah, I don't know. Let's see what else is going on with it.
I mean, securing Kyler feels good.
I just feel like it makes sense with our build so far.
There, I do want, usually like I do like these three running backs. I do feel like it's a bit of a tier above these guys, but like that's just in like a feeling of safety, not necessarily a feeling of like range of outcomes. Where it's
Yeah.
like I'm confident Ramondre is going to be the RB1 to start the season. I don't feel that way about like Mostert, Eckler, and co. But we know that their range of outcomes, they could score similarly to these guys.
Yeah, because I mean I like. Yeah, this is I like this range of running backs, and you're right. Like that. I mean, I don't think I will draft Nick Chubb at ADP if he stays there like a single time.
No,
Mostert's fine. Eckler, I don't really want any part of, to be completely honest. So yeah, like if I'm gonna take a guy, it's gonna be one of those three guys you queued up. Receiver wise, it looks like Worthy just went. I was gonna say that's a guy I would be fine with. Are there any other receivers we even want to dip our toes into here, or not really?
I mean, you can convince me with a Big Mike. You can convince me with a Lockett.
I'm not into
Some
dubs
of these
or
other names, but it kind of feels like we're better out hitting wide out the next round and just taking a running back here.
okay. Yeah, no, I mean I think we started off 3 in a row, and
Especially
thinking
with these like running back hounds here, that's gonna like people are gonna eventually need to start like we see Ramondre go. Like people need to start hitting running back. And you don't exactly like you don't want to lose the game of chicken with the zero running back drafters of like now
yeah,
my RB2 is I don't know. You don't want to be like Gus Edwards or whatever.
I think you're right. I think we lean into the room if one of these guys makes it to us.
And like Jefferson, Harrison, Neighbors, like this could be like combined nearly 6,000 receiving yards, like like 5,500. I don't know. So
um
Ramondre and Pollard both go. We might not get James Conner either. So we should talk. Like, what are we doing?
I'm Najee's been falling. Okay, do you want to go James Conner?
I
Just to
kind of like it, just like building out the Arizona stack in a unique-ish way.
Okay, yeah, I like it because I also feel like it. Then we don't feel as scared if we want to take some wide receivers in the next few rounds. Like we have at least two guys that can contribute. So I feel like yeah, that feels nice.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting Connor F ADP. Do I like Ramondre and Pollard because they're younger than Connor? Yes. But I mean, Connor's not slowed down. Like I just have like an age problem with him.
Let's see. You want to run through the squad really quick while we have a break?
Sure. We got Kyler at QB, Pacheco and Connor, Jefferson, Harrison, and Neighbors, and then McBride and Kincaid. So obviously, we're almost surely done at tight end. Quarterback, I mean, you can go 3 QB with Kyler. You don't need to, though. You can stop at 2. And then we're going to build out our running back and wideout rooms.
Yeah, you're
Pretty
gonna be
substantially.
hammering a lot of running backs and receivers for.
Yeah, we got to build that out.
Let's see what other picks I want to. What else is going on in this range? We got Caleb going at 91.
It's a little early, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say that's.
I mean, like I like Caleb, but him being within a round of Kyler is like, oof.
Yeah, and like I like Caleb a lot as well, and I think the situation is very good for him, right? With DJ Moore, Keenan, and we like whatever Cole Kmet and Gerald Everett aren't amazing, but it's like it seems like a pretty good situation, at least from the player standpoint. Coaching wise, I don't know, right? Like it's probably a little bit more ambiguous, but I do think
how bad could it be? You know,
it's the Bears, man. Who knows? But like I feel like Daniels and May are like very live to outscore him, and I think there's a big difference in their ADPs, right? Like Daniels is getting pushed up a little bit, like what, like 110s. May is still like 130s, 140s. So I feel like those guys are more. I find myself drafting in them more just because of the cost, but I like Caleb. He's set up well. Okay, so I'm fine with
I'm gonna throw
Jacoby
some names in
here.
the queue. You go however you want here.
I mean, I'm a Jacoby guy. I just feel like
Did we see the peak of Jacoby last year?
I don't know.
Let's go Jacoby, but
I just feel like at least he gives us some usable weeks. I know that's kind of the antithesis of what you were talking about earlier, but
I think we, without a doubt, I mean, look, when you have Neighbors and Harrison, who I don't think he starts slow, but like I guess could. Having Jacoby, who shouldn't start, but like that has to have been Jacoby's ceiling season. Like 8 touchdowns, 2 on the ground, so 10 touchdowns total, 180 points. That's a good season. I mean, that's a really useful season. 800 yards. With the quarterback play. Like obviously, if he was playing for like Mahomes or someone, it would be different. Gabe Davis, that's a higher ceiling than we've ever seen from Gabe.
But in a single game, yeah.
But in a single game, no, right? And what is a ceiling game from Jacoby? It's he gets 2 touchdowns.
I was gonna say it's probably like I think he had a couple like 18-ish point games last year.
I think he had some 2 touchdown games.
Yeah.
So that's solid. Like I don't love the coaching staff, like the vibe I'm getting from them, which is just like, we're gonna run the fucking ball, brother. But I do think their quarterback room is like interesting enough. I think Aiden O'Connell almost assuredly will be the guy there.
What do you think? What do you think their chances are of trading up for a rookie? It's like they've been hinting at it, but I don't know if they have the ammo to get ahead of some of the other teams.
I think it's pretty low because if you are the head coach, you don't want that. The reason being is you don't want to attach yourself to the QB4, the QB5, whatever. You want to go down with the ship with, the guy they have. And if he sucks, you want to get a good quarterback. You don't want to, so like you have to think like how these guys think. And like if I'm the head coach, I'm not like, hey, let's maximize win equity my first year's head coach. It's I have enough goodwill to last a year. So this year I build out the roster. And then next year, if Aiden O'Connell is like unacceptable, hopefully he's really bad, right? Like maybe I even play.
You just bottom out, yeah.
Yeah, we bought him out. And now I'm the one who gets to get the Caleb, the career saver. Like you want that. You don't want to like be like, hey, let's trade up and get Michael Penix. Or unless you're, like, is it possible? And I don't know the GM situation for the Raiders. Like, I don't know if he's a new GM or whatnot.
I don't remember.
Because if the GM is not new, well, then he's gonna try to get a rookie. But That's definitely a dynamic that always is playing around with these new head coaches.
Yeah, it's always a weird balance of like, right? Like you're either it's like, are you a new coach and you're trying to kind of like sustain it,
Well,
or
you're
are
trying to
you?
hitch your wagon to a guy, but
Yeah.
you have a little bit of time to do that.
Um, who are you thinking here? Because this is an interesting range. We have some falling
I mean,
quarterback.
Herbert could be throwing to Neighbors or Harrison, which makes it tempting. Like we're almost assuredly getting the Harrison stack. I also like the running backs.
Yeah, I'm fine with
Herbert lets
Herbert.
us stop at 2 QB too.
Yeah, then we just got to hammer running back and receiver for a while. But let's go Herbert.
Well,
I
so we're
mean,
going 2 QB, 2 tight end, and that allows us to go, you know, I mean, we could go 8 and 8.
8-8. Yeah,
Like a 2-8-8 2 is like a pretty tempting build, especially when your QBs and tight ends cost no more than like 4th round picks, you know?
I just feel like it gives us right. We still have some. We have some anchor two anchor running backs, right? Like in the top 10 rounds, and then we can build out some rookies, some other guys that we just think can give us some usable weeks, and then receiver we can just hammer with a mix of vets and rookies. So
I mean, I feel good about our high end wideout
yeah,
talent.
absolutely.
And then running back, we're just hoping to fall into some volume. QB, I feel good about it. Like there's a lot of FUD around Herbert with Jim Harbaugh there, but I mean, how bad can that be? And it's very likely at least one of Kyler or Herbert are throwing to Harrison or Neighbors. Like they're both not trading out. Like they only pretty much only one of them can trade out. Um, or we could have both, because the Patriots could trade out with the Vikings, and then it
Yeah,
might go Harrison to the Cardinals, Neighbors to the Chargers,
I can
which
see it for sure.
which would be awesome for this team.
I mean, especially as our QB2 Herbert, right? Like that's a pretty good cost.
I mean, Herbert's a fucking fantasy stud. Like, what's he doing in the 10th round?
Yeah, it's all the what's his name? I'm blanking right now. It's late. What's his name? The guy, the coordinator from the Ravens.
Oh, Greg Roman.
Greg Roman. There you go. I was gonna say Roman.
He was a Bills OC first. That's why I know him.
Oh my God, just freaking that offense is just. And they signed Gus Edwards. They signed Hayden Hurst and Will Dissly blocking tight ends. So I mean I
Yeah, that's not
understand
great,
it.
but like,
It seems like it's going too far. Like this is pretty far for him to fall. So
I'm throwing some names in there. Gabe is just like if we need a wideout, spike week guy. Blake and Gus both seem like they're going to be Chargers, so that's kind of adding to that Charger stack.
yeah, when's our next pick? Because I feel like
Not for like a while. We got 6 seconds here.
let's go, Gabe.
Big game. Hey, let's build out the gang here.
We
I
got
think.
Kincaid and Gabe. There we go.
I mean, like Zay Jones has legal questions, and
I don't know what's gonna happen with him.
like, I mean, he could be cut. Like, I don't really know, but we could like Gabe had a bad year last year and still gave us a couple weeks.
I mean, at this point, pick 127, and I mean, T-Law likes to sling it deep. Like he likes to let it rip. We were talking about we for the third or fourth time about how many missed opportunities they had on touchdowns. Right, like that could be Gabe. Right, he had have a couple 2 or 3 touchdown games.
Yeah, Gabe Hall is their wide receiver coach. He was previously the wide receiver coach of the Bills.
Oh,
So that's a
yeah,
Gabe connection, probably a reason he signed there.
that makes sense. Oh, I did
Yeah.
not know that.
I mean, like for Gabe leaving Buffalo, landing with Jacksonville is like one of the top landing spots. It's not like he landed with the
Panthers or
Patriots.
something.
Yeah, the Panthers, the Patriots.
I mean, I think Kirk and Engram are going to eat underneath, and then Gabe can clear it out for them. Have a few spike weeks. I would be a little bit worried if they draft someone at 17, a receiver.
That's possible.
It's possible. I feel like I don't know. I don't know. Like I feel like I was very on the train that they were going to, but I think the Gabe signing signals a little bit. Like, he's not going to prevent them from drafting someone, but I feel like it's a little bit of a signal that they might not. So we'll see.
I mean, he got $33 million. He, I think he pairs well with Myers too. Whereas like Myers a little bit more target dominant, and Gabe that spike week king. I mean, Gabe can just win you a week, and
I was
like
going to say that's actually a really good point. Yeah, the Myers Davis kind of combo there is nice. We're up in a couple picks. Hoosier Devo is in the chat, so don't want to tip my hat there. But there's a couple guys that I like
well,
coming
he's
up.
got a 155, so feels like if there's any running backs you like, it's safe. Seeing how alpha RB he is.
Yeah,
But
five already through this far. He probably there you go. And then he has 4 as well, so probably going receiver here, I would assume. He's another one of these testosterone drafters. Okay, so I was thinking Sharbs. I kind of like Sharbs as our RB3. Gives us a
I
little.
like Sharps. He's safe. I mean, QJ, you have that Herbert connection. Ford is probably like a little bit more upside than Sharps.
Yeah, I like Wicks as well. Or if you want to go
Cook.
QJ, that's fine. I feel like I lean Sharbs, but
Josh Palmer for the Herbert stack is interesting too. But we want Sharps. I
I
mean,
I, I feel like this is a good
this was
range.
this is cheaper than Sharps was drafted last year, and now they're going to be a more run heavy team.
Yeah, I mean, it's just right. Like, this is the range where contingent running backs go, and I think him and Walker were both
Well, he's
second
not
round.
even a contingent back. I think he probably will get that goal line role.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. Like this is the range where like it's usually like wherever it used to be like an Alexander Madison type guy, right? Would go even above this, and I think Sharps is right. Like, he does have some standalone role and the contingent, so especially as your RB3 or 4, I feel like this right. He can can help you win in a couple ways. So I
Yeah, I
like
mean,
it.
like Gus Edwards probably shouldn't go ahead of him. Chuba is questionable to go ahead of him. Blake is questionable to go ahead of him. Jalen Wright is highly questionable to go ahead of him. Like,
Yeah, what are your thoughts on this kind of the Blake Corum, Jalen Wright? I guess Brooks.
I mean, I
Howard
really
is
need
your head.
me and everyone else needs to see how the draft goes.
Yeah,
Like Jalen Wright could be like a 5th round pick, like we know what he is. He's an explosive guy. But I mean, Zach Charbonnet got 2nd round draft capital. He was the RB2 last year for rookies. It's feeling like most of these rookies probably will not get the draft capital Charbonnet did. So
I agree, especially with the meta, just NFL, how this class is looking.
yeah.
I think we'll have a couple like sneak up, right? Like, it seems like it always happens, but yeah,
I mean,
I think probably
Shakir like I've drafted very little Shakir, so getting him at a major discount is interesting. Michael Wilson is the stack.
yeah.
Like,
I'm trying to think. I mean, if we're gonna take Shakir, this is the time, right? Like 20 picks past ADP.
we got 5 seconds. Speak a name.
Let's go Shakir.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we could add to the Arizona stack and get Michael Wilson. I mean, Shakir is very difficult for me because he has been unquestionably good when he's played.
Yeah,
At the same time, you got Curtis Samuel, who is a bit more target dominant than a Gabe Davis. You got Dalton Kincaid year 2. Diggs probably healthy and pretty likely to have a 1st or 2nd round wideout. Now, if Shakir escapes a 1st or 2nd round wideout selection, well, then it's like, yeah, let's go, because then he's just the wide receiver 3 or wide receiver 2. Like, it's hard to say how it'll break down between him and Samuel. Shakir maybe more down the field. At the same time, they've always kind of slow played it. I feel like Shakir can play on the outside, but he's primarily played in the slot. So I don't know. I was a little surprised to see his ADP so high, and this feels like a more appropriate range
I
where
was
he
gonna
should.
say, I think it's probably after this Curtis Samuel signing. I think it's probably gonna slowly drip down for a little bit, but I, part of me is wishing we would have taken either one of Roman Wilson or Ricky Pearsall because I feel like they probably go second round, even though I don't love their profiles. I think I like Ricky
Yeah,
Pearsall's
they're
a
good,
little
but
bit
like,
more.
here's the thing: it's like you can't just blindly take second. Like Tyquan Thornton win the second round. You know,
That's true.
like it does feel good when you draft a rookie in the 13th, and then they go second round in the draft. You're like, hey, I just drafted Puka Nakua, you know, or whatever. But at the same time, like sometimes those guys are Tyquan Thornton, whatever, you know. Mingo, sometimes they're Jonathan fucking
Oh
Mingo,
God, not
you
Jonathan
know?
Mingo. I
Yeah.
saw people talking about Xavier Leggett to the being mocked to the Panthers, and they're like, "Fuck it, let's do it again." I think it was that Kyle Dvorak tweeted that. I'm just like, "Come on." Do we go Wilson?
I like these three names.
I like those three names as well. So let's just think through it because we have how many receivers now? Is it 6?
6 wideouts, 3 running backs.
Um.
I kind of let's do Wilson and then just like go 8 running backs.
Okay, that sounds good. I feel like because then receiver. I feel like whatever running back you can find names late.
You
So
can
yeah,
find names late everywhere, but like a room of Jefferson, Harrison, Neighbors, Myers, Gabe, Shakir, and Wilson is like you can probably escape with only going 8.
I think so. Yeah, it looks like probably going 2-8-8-2.
I'm gonna refill my water. This draft is moving really quick. I'm gonna bring my phone in case these guys sneak it on us, though.
Okay, sounds good. Um, so we have Michael Wilson paired up with whatever, possibly a Neighbors or an MHJ to Arizona pick with Kyler there. So that feels pretty nice. We did go the Liam special and go double quarterback in the, I guess I don't know if that's a window. And then also double elite tight end with Kincaid and McBride. So this is not a build I have usually done with 2 quarterbacks and 2 tight ends in the first 10-ish rounds. But I do think it's fun to kind of give us a different build and allow us to have some flexibility with some of these late round wide receivers and running backs. Let's see who else is going. So Rico Dowdle has been
I feel
moving
like
up forward.
that guy slowed down his picks for us. Cheers if you're watching 101.
So who is this? Sean? I don't know who this is.
I mean, possibly he just autoed 2 picks, but he did take the full clock, if not.
I was talking about we got 3 interesting running backs going off the board here with Jaleel McLaughlin, Braylon Allen, and Rico Dowdle. I feel like leg up has been very high on Jaleel McLaughlin. So I feel like he's a pretty good pick in this range with Javonte. Javonte is coming off, right? He'll be the second year.
Jaleel's gone.
He just went. Oh, I'm
Yeah.
saying these 3 guys that went right before us.
Oh, yeah, no, I love an explosive fastback.
Yeah. And then Braylon Allen, obviously rookie. I don't know how to feel about him. Like, it's like I feel like I'll have periods where I'm like really into Braylon Allen, and I'll be like,
Yeah,
feel like
I
I'd
don't
want
like.
him
I
to
had
test
on
better.
JJ, and he really liked him, and Jacob hated him. So
Yeah, it's very like that's like one of the most polarizing guys in this whole draft, right? I think
Kean Mitchell is like the cheap McLaughlin. Gibson, I quite like as like.
I like Gibson. I like Gibson a lot. I feel like Gibson is the pick here.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like he has a lock on the RB2. It's not the best offense in the world, but just to kind of get a little bit of safety when we're going to be taking 4 dudes who we don't really know feels good. You know, like I find myself taking Gibson quite a lot. Like he could be bad again, right? But I mean, he signed there pretty early. That team is so talent starved. it seems unlikely they're going to add significant competition at the running back room. And so I like it.
I mean, I just think like we saw Zeke be pretty fruitful, right? I mean, obviously it was because of the Ramondre injury, but
And Zappy. That was like a big
and Zappy. So I mean, yeah, I guess that's true, but I don't know. I just feel like we've seen Gibson. I know last year was bad, but it's like he does have pass catching upside, right? So maybe he has a little bit of standalone value there. And then, I mean, I know it's been a couple of years, but he did kind of go crazy for periods when given the role. So I don't think it's out of the possibility that he just whatever pick 175. I think he is a good pick here.
Yeah, he's like, I mean, with our running back room, Pacheco, Connor, Charbonnet, we're just looking for a guy who can give us a couple weeks, and that's going to be what we're looking for these next couple picks. Like, I think we're going 2-8-8-2.
I think so too.
You know, like,
Okay.
we're only taking one more wide out. We're just kind of depending on the big three and some weeks from the rest. We're solid at tight end. We're solid at quarterback.
Yeah, I think we
Give us the
take the
dart.
advantage of taking those early quarterbacks and tight ends and just roll it into running back and receiver. So we're gonna be up again in a second. We see Sack taking Estime, who has been moving down based on his
No, he's
40
moving
time.
up off his pro day.
Yeah, that's true. You're right. He was going right like pick 140, moving down, and now moving back up again.
He was high, then way down.
So
Ray Davis tested fine. Malachi Corley actually is like a fringe second round guy. So that feels good as our last wideout. If you're cool with that.
that's fine with that. And then just hammer. Yeah.
Yeah, he's in the
It's
mix
like,
to go around there.
yeah, it's like I don't love the profile, but also like I just want to be taking shots on rookies. So that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I listened to a Josh Allen interview and he mentioned in the second tier of wide receivers, he mentioned Coleman, Worthy, Brian Thomas, Xavier Legette. He mentioned, I think he mentioned Troy Franklin. He did not mention Malachi. So like these guys, Devontae, Malachi, Roman, Jalen, even Ladd, and Ricky, like they might be a little bit tier below those guys. Like I've been drafting a lot of Ladd. I kind of like his skill set, but I don't know. It will be
There's just
interesting
so
to see
many
how
damn
teams view
rookie wide
him.
receivers that like it's like after those top like 5 or 6, it's just like, okay, I hope they get drafted second round. So okay, so let's what running backs do you like?
We're hitting running back from here on out. So
Yeah, I like. Well, I mean, I guess we have actual lots.
yeah,
Of
give me
people.
a couple of names to throw in this queue.
I like. I don't mind Miles Sanders, to be completely honest. Just I know he wasn't great last year, but I don't think Chuba is infallible. Like I think he could get a role. Shipley, I actually like. I think Sean Siegel was talking up Shipley, even though he looks like he's 12. He tested pretty well and he catches passes, so I like Shipley. Who else? I mean, we have Madison. It's very gross for the Las Vegas.
I like these two names, Abanikanda and Lobby,
Loud, yeah.
and I like Evan Hull.
I
I
like
like
Evan
Isaiah
Hull a lot.
Davis. Yeah, the Panthers head coach said, who was asked about the running backs, he's like, whoever runs the hardest is going to earn it. So I don't really know, that's not like a ringing thing. I mean, if Kenneth Gainwell is the 2, like that's pretty good for our running back
Yeah,
room.
I mean,
It's just
honestly, it's not a terrible pick. Like he's never really done anything super fun, but also Saquon is old, like, and right, like he I don't think it's out of the possibility that he's a 2. Um, yeah, Dearness versus Tank.
Yeah. I mean, Tank, man, give me a break. Tank's just, if Tank does something after doing nothing, I'll be flabbergasted.
What
You
about
want,
Donta Foreman with the Browns?
I think he's interesting. Like, kind of feels more early season, but like that's fine. Would you rather go him or Miles?
I almost feel like I like Foreman better.
Do you? Okay, I'm down with it.
It's a little bit above ADP, but
ADP is meaningless at this point, especially.
scroll the F down.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, Sanders is like a, should he still be here? And he's either like a total smash or garbage again, you know? Um
It's just
and
weird. They paid him all that money. He got cucked by Chuba, and it's like, I don't know. Maybe he has a resurgence. Like, maybe it's new head coach, right? So I don't know, but
yeah, and I mean, like, Foreman we've seen be so good for stretches. Like, I don't know if he's like their old Nick Chubb and resurges, I wouldn't be shocked. At
dude,
the same,
every year he's live for 125-point game at
yeah,
least every
how
single
old is
year. It's
Deontay
crazy.
Foreman? He's only 27.
I know it seems like he's older, but he's actually not that old. I mean,
He's about to be 28. He's about to be 28. So
he had the Achilles, right? Like really early, like as a rookie, or a sophomore, and then I mean, it's been 3 or 4 years. He's consistently like he'll step in, he'll get 2 games with 30 carries each game and produce. So Browns O line is good. I don't think Jerome Ford is like an alpha that's going to just take all the carries if it's those two.
no, I like the scratch ticket on Ford, but he's definitely risky.
I mean, he's probably right, like overall more talented than Foreman, but Foreman he is talented at one thing, and that's being a grinder that can just take a bunch of carries. So
Yeah, and with a elite O line, that can do a lot.
yeah, I agree. Okay, so I got Foreman last time. So what running back is your choice here?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's just alternate running back picks here. Looks like Abanikanda went. We're gonna go with famed UNH alum Dylan Lobby. I've been drafting him strictly because I grew up in New Hampshire, and so I'm sharing that experience with you. He's a pass catcher. Not impossible. He lands with couldn't you, apparently really good pass catcher, like possible Jerick McKinnon replacement for Kansas City. Uh, I don't know what kind of draft capital he'll get. Probably not high. He's like okay profile wise. Should get drafted. So whatever. He's a rookie dart. We're taking 8. He's in the mix. Like he'll never be a between the tackles guy, but whatever. Like we've seen Theo Riddicks of the past.
I mean, his pass catching is pretty crazy. So yeah, I think he can even if he is drafted late, he can find a role. So worth it at this price.
And it's like the opposite profile Foreman, where like Foreman's like the grinder between the tackles, and now we got the pass catcher.
We're getting good texture here with the running backs, right? A good mix. Same with our wide receivers, honestly, too, right? We got some more like consistent type guys, and then we got the Gabe type blow up game. So we're mixing it up. We're baking a cake.
Yeah, I mean, like we got like a bag of mystery here from like the Myers pick and below. Like we got Malachi, just a pure rookie. Michael Wilson, year 2. Could be anywhere from wide receiver 1 to, I don't know. Wide receiver 2 kind of seems like his floor, but it's not impossible. He's like wide receiver 3 if they go wide out. Shakir, who we don't even really know if he's like locked in for playing time, but feels like a lock for fantasy points at the worst. Big game Gabe, which we just know what we're hunting for with Gabe. It's those 2 touchdown type games. And then Jacoby, it's just like get in the end zone. And then the 2 highest upside rookies and what many view as the number 1 wide receiver in football, Justin Jefferson.
Hammer.
This is not a QB room I love. Derek Carr, Bryce Young, Russell, Rodgers, Daniel. This guy's like gotta be autoing or something. He's like
he must be.
Yeah, this is a 5 auto. Let's get the vibe of this room. He went CMC, Moore, Olave, fine enough. James Cook, good. Cooper, good. Adonai Mitchell, a little bit of a reach there. Aaron Jones, Troy Franklin, Javante, Jaden Daniels and Rodgers, interesting mix. Leggett and Jalen Polk. I don't know much about Polk. Henry, Likely, Conklin, 3 tight ends with the stack. Conklin to Rodgers. Derek Carr, Bryce Young, Russell Wilson. I don't know what they're doing for the team.
I think he might have fallen asleep.
Yeah, that's an auto for sure. Your running back choice is coming up. I got 5 names in the queue, and there's other guys out there.
I think I'm running to the podium for Evan Hull. I kind of like Evan Hull.
I love Evan
RB2 in Indy, I hope. Yeah.
Yeah, Evan Hull's one of my favorite picks. I mean, like, I've been a guy who's drafted a ton of Zamir White, a ton of Chase Brown, a ton of these guys who look like zeros, who were athletic freaks. And then the second they fall into opportunity, it works out, like Chase, you feel bad about these picks until they hit the field. And with Evan, we don't know if he will hit the field, if they'll add another guy, whatever. But as we know right now, he's an athletic freak, RB2 behind JT, and we'll see from there.
I mean, if he's the RB2, I know JT is obviously, if JT's healthy, he's going to be getting the vast majority of the touches. But we just saw Zach Moss pay off, right, as the RB2 in Indy last year.
Well, and Hull was on IR, so like it's not even clear if Moss would have played ahead of Hull.
Yeah, and I mean Moss, Hull, like, right, like we're talking about Lauby with the pass catching. Hull was a very good pass catching prospect and very athletic, like you just mentioned. So I think he's just being a little bit left for dead, right? Like, because he was injured last year, out of sight, out of mind. But I think that's I don't know. I don't think that's a good move. I think we should be penciling him for at least.
He could get crushed in the draft, right? Like they could draft like Brooks or someone.
They could.
But I don't know. Like the Colts probably don't view running back as like I mean, maybe they're preparing for post JT and they do draft running back. But I don't know.
Okay, so it looks like you are up here for the last RB pick of the draft, and then so why don't you
it's gotta be Rashad Penny. I don't know.
Rashad Penny, your boy too, right?
Yeah, I don't know. We're not gonna go Penny. Not even I can go back to that well. Just kind of scrolling the names here, seeing what's
can I interest you in a Jake Funk?
Oh God. Famed Ram. We're going to go with, let's go with Isaiah Davis. I don't know much about him. He tested okay, though. That's what I do know.
Okay, you want to run through the team really quick?
Yeah, I mean, so we got Kyler and Herbert. Feel great about the quarterbacks. I'll let you talk about our running backs, being the kind guy I am.
So we got a very interesting running back room with Pacheco falling a couple picks past ADP, James Conner to stack up with our Arizona bet. We got Sharps. We got Antonio Gibson, hopefully the RB2 in New England. We got Deonta, 125-point game per year. Foreman. We got Dylan Lube. We got Evan Hull, and then we got Isaiah Davis.
So is it Lube? Because I've been saying
I think it's Lauby. It's just I think Tyler in the chat baited what is it, Neil Orfield to say Lube, or I don't know. I forget what the clip was, but
hilarious.
we got to roll with the bits.
Gross running back room. I'll talk about our wideouts. Jefferson, elite, star. Harrison and Neighbors, they're going to light the league on fire. Jacoby Myers, good for a boring 15. Big game Gabe, going to give us that 40-point week 17. Shakir coming in for those good weeks. Michael Wilson for the stack, coming down with some big games himself. Malachi Corley, second round pick, hitting the field right away.
And then at tight end, we have Trey McBeast, and then Dalton Kincaid, a hometown classic to wrap it up. I like this team. It's not how I usually draft. I feel like I don't usually go when you were filling up your water bottle. I was like, I don't usually go like too early tight end and quarterback. It's not early, but like in the window-ish type quarterbacks. So not a texture I usually go with, but I actually like it. I feel like just whatever 8 RBs and 8 wide receivers with the guys we got early for both those positions, like it gives us a chance to kind of whatever take a shot at a Corley, take a shot on some of these later guys. So I think it's pretty fun. We got some stacks as well with the possibly a Neighbors or MHJ going to Arizona. Let's see. Do we want to sauce any of these other teams?
It's fun to like. We're taking advantage of the market where we feel the quarterbacks are mispriced, where we're like, we're getting 2 guys who we view as elite quarterbacks in fantasy.
Yeah, that are priced
cheap. And then we're taking the tight ends, which just means we're taking the uncertainty at running back, and we're just hoping the Kyrens, the whatever, like some of that exists in this mix here. Like none of these guys feel like Kyren, but whatever. Maybe Evan Hull, like JT goes down, Evan Hull could be that, right? And then wideout. Honestly, I feel good about these names. Like it's just do our big 3 give us enough?
So let's
let me name this bad boy real quick before.
name it really quick, and then let's sauce some teams because we got some friends and family in the chat. So
I got time for one sauce here.
Okay.
You choose the team we're saucing.
Let's do this guy in the 4 spot. He's asking for it. I was gonna say Sack, but he's an expert, so I think he can sauce himself.
Okay, we'll go BSB 2727 727 St. Pete areas code. So, I mean, I like this contexture of the quarterback room. So nothing to sauce there, but running backs, talk us through it.
So we got Bijan at pick 4, so going a little bit ahead of ADP, but I think that's defensible. We got Najee almost 10 picks past ADP, which he has been falling a little bit with the CPAT news, which I don't know. I think that's still a fine cost on Najee. We got possibly rookie RB1 with Jonathan Brooks, Julian McLaughlin, Kendre almost past ADP, and then Kamani Vidal, who my boy Rusty has been drafting every single draft in the 20th round. So I think he tested pretty well. So I feel like that's a solid enough RB room. You went some rookies and like a Najee type that can give you some volume.
Running back room sucks. That's how you sauce it. Boo, it sucks. Wideout also sucks. Diggs, pretty good. T. Higgins, overrated. Kirk, paid too much money. Addison, not target dominant. Deontay, he plays for the Panthers. Chris Samuel, the Bills are going to draft a guy. QJ, worst wide receiver in football. Noah Brown, they're going to add another guy. Elijah Moore just lost his job to Jerry Jeudy. That's how you sauce.
And then we got Jake Ferguson. He's dating a TikTok star, so he must be a bum. We got TJ Hawkinson isn't going to play next year. And then we got Tucker Kraft, who's going to be the tight end 2 on a team led by Jordan Love. So a group of bums right there.
So just the bottom tier team. Boo.
Liam, thank you so much for hopping on with me. I appreciate you taking the time to switch around your schedule and fit me in. But do you have anything to plug? Anything else you want to talk about before we head out of here?
Nah, man, thanks so much for having me. I do streams myself, and just look up my name.
So yeah, if he's not going to plug himself, go. I put his Twitter down below in the bio, so go check that out. He does a bunch of streams, puts out very good content. So if you're not already following, you probably are. But if you're not, go ahead and do that. And yeah, anyone else? I don't have a guest lined up for next week yet, but I have a few that I'm thinking about reaching out. But otherwise, I will see you guys next week and have a great night. Thanks so much. Make sure to like the video, and if you leave a comment, that really
and smash that subscribe button.
Yeah, hey, we're on the road to 500. We're at 266. So the trend is going up, and we're gonna keep grinding. So have a great night, everyone.